William Shakespeare. The Lost Prop. William Shakespeare, the immortal bard, the greatest playwright in the English language, was a master of language, of tragedy, comedy, and the human condition. His plays, filled with timeless themes and unforgettable characters, are still performed and adored by millions across the globe. And while we might imagine the staging of his plays to be perfect, like his writing, there were occasionally moments of chaos and unexpected hilarity behind the scenes of those performances. Back in the Globe Theatre in London, during a performance of his most famous tragedy, Hamlet, all seemed to be going smoothly. The actors, dressed in their period costumes, moved with grace and skill across the stage, delivering Shakespeare's immortal lines with their usual dramatic flair. The stage was set for the famous graveyard scene, and everything, or so it seemed, was in its place. But as we know, the best-laid plans of mice and men, and even the greatest playwrights, can be undone by a single unexpected event. And in this particular performance, that event was the disappearance of a crucial prop. The skull. Yes, the skull, the very symbol of mortality and the subject of one of the most famous soliloquies in all of literature, had gone missing. No one knew where it had gone. The stage manager was in a panic. The actors began to whisper, and the audience, as yet unaware of the problem, was growing increasingly expectant. The actor playing Hamlet, who was about to deliver the famous "Alas, poor Yorick" speech, stood on the stage in absolute disbelief, wondering what to do. This was, of course, an extremely important scene, and a missing prop could completely undermine it. The actor, in the face of impending disaster, turned to the nearest object, hoping that the audience wouldn't notice the missing skull. He grabbed a large, ripe melon, and then, with a slightly worried look on his face, used it to replace the missing skull. He stood with the melon, looking at it, contemplating its existence, and then, very dramatically, began his most famous speech. "Alas, poor Yorick! I knew him, Horatio, a fellow of infinite jest, of most excellent fancy. He hath borne me on his back 1,000 times, and now, how abhorred in my imagination it is! My gorge rises at it." He had, in a matter of moments, changed the entire mood of the play from dramatic and deeply sad to something much, much more absurd. The audience gasped, and then, after a moment, many began to laugh, breaking into loud applause at the utter absurdity of the situation. And from the sidelines, Shakespeare, who had been watching the performance with his usual watchful gaze, roared with laughter. He had never seen anything quite like it. He thought, perhaps, that a watermelon wasn't quite the right replacement for a skull, but there was a brilliance in the way it was used. He, and many others, had not been expecting the most fruity of readings ever to be performed at the Globe. It's proof that even in the most serious of dramas, unexpected moments can bring out our humanity, and that even Shakespeare himself enjoyed a good laugh, at his own expense.